Where are you tonight? Why did you leave me here all alone? I searched the world over and thought I found true love. You found another and you were gone.
Dude, a gritty Hee Haw reboot. That's what I want. You get Toby Keith taking Roy Clark's job.
Owning the libtards.
Yeah, owning the libtards, yes. Kid Rock's gonna be on there. It's gonna be really something.
How is there not a Kid Rock song called Owning the Libtards?
Dude, Kid Rock is one of the most amazing human beings in the world. He moved to Alabama. Like, who does that? I remember wanting to do comics when I was a kid. I wanted to be like Todd motherfucking McFarlane or whoever.
Todd McFarlane was a big deal to me when I was a kid, and he actually did a thing that is above and beyond the Call of Duty, so to speak, when he was still working on Spider-Man, and my dad took me to a signing at Heroes when he was working on Spider-Man, and I was probably 13, and I had sample pages that I had already drawn,
dude.
And we showed them to Todd, and he told my dad, "Your son's gonna make it."
Whoa!
And my dad's an electrical.
Your ass was minted, son.
And my dad was an electrical contractor.
Yeah.
Who had worked his way up from being an electrician. He's a blue collar guy.
Yeah.
And I think, he had always been supportive, and I think that was one of the things that was like, holy shit, this guy that's got a giant line and is a millionaire just told me, like, my son's not wasting his time doing this for a living. And I told Todd that. Like, I was like,
dude,
this is my opportunity to tell you this.
He's like, I just fucking tell kids that all the time.
Yeah. He was like, I do that so motherfuckers will stop bothering me.
Do you think that you can do that? Like, if you look at a person's art now, do you think you can tell if they're going to make it? I'm a pessimistic person.
Really?
Yeah, so I'm always waiting, like, whenever I became a pro, and, like, people want to pay me for my work, and some of my money, the first year or two, a lot of it was from commission work and just private work, but I was so surprised that people wanted to pay me for my shit, that I'm like, how long is this going to last? This is too good to be true, Yeah, I'm doing a creator-owned book with a really, really great writers. Like, it could be a pretty nice job, but it's impossible for me to believe that until that first check cashes. You know what I mean?
I would say you've been working professionally about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that time span, a lot of that's been work for hire, ups and downs of dealing with your life when you are beholden to a person who may never hire you again, right?
Yeah.
Is this why, you've been talking a lot about wanting to move and stuff? Like,
I think I always have a pretty moderate level of anxiety anyway, just being a freelancer. It's a very terrifying job,
So this is where the incongruency is to me. Though. It's coming from like a positive place, because when I look at you and you just explained like your whole life story to me, like you're a fucking, brave person. You've like set out to do this really crazy, courageous, pursuit in the face of all criticism or like lack of support or whatever. And then when we talk about like you being upset about like wanting to you want to get out of town, you want to move around, you seem like really hesitant to try it.
Yeah.
I don't want to do like these interviews as like a Dr. Phil thing.
Yeah. Kneecap to kneecap.
Yeah, sure. But I do think like there's a commonality here that exists, which is everybody that starts out to do a comic is a really fucking courageous person on some level.
It's difficult. It's difficult to do.
And you've had some success at it, so why would you hold yourself back and not travel and do the things that you want to do?
It could be a momentum thing, like you do things a certain way, you live a certain way for a while, and
is it maybe a fear that you're biting off more than you can chew?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I'm a cautious person. You know, I said I'm pessimistic. I think I'm a cautious person too. I think with doing anything like risky, like being a traveling artist or any of that stuff that we talked about, that I really would like to do.
Well, to make it a little clearer, what I said was you said you wanted to move out of town.
Yeah.
You've been in the same place for a long time.
Yeah.
And you like instantly jump from like 0 to like this is a thing I find very common in artists and in myself early on was like people go from like gaseous to solid.
Yeah,
Like
just
they don't. Yeah, there's no in between.
and you don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's the thing that we do to cope with fear. You
Yeah.
know, like it's a thing we do where we're like, you know, this is a perfect example of shooting this thing. Is I decided to shoot this because I was a little bit afraid of doing a video thing.
Yeah, you know how you conquer fear, right? Or how a lot of people think that voluntary exposure.
Right.
So you're making yourself do something you're uncomfortable doing.
Right. That's the only way you grow.
Yes. Yeah. But if someone throws you into the pool, that you may not necessarily learn how to swim that well, but if you force yourself to get in, you'll overcome your. That's the idea. That's the way I understand it.
Sure. And so, like, if you chart this conversation, this brief conversation we've had, that is a thing you've done time and time again throughout your life.
Yeah, voluntary exposure.
And you've been, you know, 6 months ago I yelled at you on a phone and
Yeah.
told you that you need to just fucking move around some
Yeah.
before you decide to put your feet in cement.
Yeah, that's smart.
And
I
I
haven't
mean,
done it.
that's
I haven't
sort
done
of the arc of this conversation.
Yeah, I haven't
you
done
know?
it yet, have I?
You just gave yourself the best advice.
Yeah.
Voluntary exposure.
Yeah, no, you're so a lot of times, like, I get a lot of benefit from having discussions like this because, you know, people have blind spots, right? And there are things that, like, it never even occurred to me that we had that long conversation and then I never acted on it. I guess for one reason or another, I just.
Well, you get busy.
But then you're like, hey, remember when we talked about that? And like, it's occurred to me pretty clearly over the last couple of days that I really haven't. You know, there's nothing tying me down.
Yeah, and you called me. I didn't call you.
Yeah,
Like, you called and only talked in real life like 4 times.
Yeah, but I know, you know,
I'm here to tell
you're fun
you
to bounce stuff off of.
exactly what to do with your life.
Yeah.
You know?
That speaks to me. I think, well, there's a lot of personal stuff going on too, but I think I was like, I was thinking, maybe I was going through the Rolodex in my mind of smart people, and you wound up in the wrong list. You wound up in the wrong list, but I wound up talking to you, you know. But also, I think we have some similarities in very few, but we have some. You know, you have, you're not tied down, really. So I thought this guy might understand.
Yeah, right.
You know, and you've lived in New York. You've moved around. You've kind of tried things. Yeah. So I thought this guy might understand. Where some of my other friends.
No, I really felt like where you were coming from.
Yes.
I have been there. Really, one of the things that gets in artists' way most of the time is themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, and that can be in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
But one of the most common things is that people take themselves so seriously that they become absurd. You know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that you talk about me moving around and stuff, it's really fucking crazy the amount of travel. Like, people are always like, oh, man of the world, or whatever the fuck, you know? And when I was a kid, I went to New York for the very first time when I was 29 years old. I lived like 8 hours away. I'd been to Florida. I used to drive to school 8 hours to go to school in Florida, which is basically like a mirror version of where I'm from.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, I kept looking for something different in the same place. You know, and I'm not saying you find, you know, you're going to find something different around a corner or in Paris or whatever the fuck. Yeah. But one of the things that you do find is that it's not that hard once you put yourself out there.
Voluntary exposure.
Yeah.
So you would drive to Florida, but you wouldn't drive to New York.
All right.
But
Failure.
it's scarier when you go that way because there's no biscuits up there. You know?
The point I'm getting at is that like people are afraid to fail.
Sure.
And this job is not that serious. The people that employ you and the people that consume your art will change based on more times than not based on your investment. They're looking to us as much for that same like ability to be validated to change as they are entertainment. You know, like I can look back through my life and be like, you know, Outcast changed me as a human being. You know, they validated my ability to be weird.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
You know, and we're from small places, essentially. You're from a shit speck, and I'm from a turd.
Did you just make that up just now? Yeah. That's pretty genius. There's more to being an artist than like what kind of fucking ink you use.
Right.
You know?
I don't want to talk about this.
No, who cares about that?
I feel like people who are, you know, just be self-assured as yourself, you know, in what you're into. Because like you get 10 artists in a room and nobody agrees on anything. Yeah. You know, audiences, like you just pick what audience you want. Like you
the one with money. That's the one I want.
Well, you move in the direction of that. You know, and if you can't communicate, you can't do anything. Sure. You know, like a lot of people are drawn to artwork that tries to stand out. Other people are drawn to stuff that goes counter to something. People are things that go with things, that unearth things. There's a million ways to skin it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, but if you're talking about like building a community and building like an understanding of what art is or what, I mean, it's not even necessarily comics, like creativity, you know, like taking chances or whatever. Like it only, you have to embolden people to, I don't know, like be less self-conscious about it, I think. Because if they're less self-conscious about it, then they can discuss things earnestly. We can wrap this for now. We can do some like other bullshit later.
Sure, yeah.
But the last thing before we go though is I left you a present under your seat.
Are you serious?
Yep.
I'm gonna under the couch or under the cushion.
Yeah, you gotta get up and find it.
All right. Is it just a? Is it a? Hang on. You fucking with me?
It's under the cushion.
It's under the cushion. What is it? You're fucking with me. He's fucking with me. It's beautiful.
What do you think this is, Oprah?
Yeah, no. You know, I was like.